went down the other day with poor Elon. We love Elon, do we not, here on this show? Look at what Elon's done. And by the way, he's exposing all kinds of stuff and there's more to come. But Donald Trump has a meeting with his cabinet members. And within minutes of that closed-door meeting ending, Politico has an article that Elon Musk is out. You know, we led with this the other day. And I was like, well, you know, it took me a while actually to get on there because I was trying to vet it, et cetera. You know, we don't want to just entirely go with what Politico is saying. But bottom line, you know, he's going to be out the end of May anyway. That was always the intention. I think it caught Elon by surprise. It took him about 6 hours to actually respond via tweet. And now Donald Trump saying on the plane just last night on Air Force One, you know, he's going to miss Elon. He likes smart people, and the Elon has made a major contribution. But eventually everybody knew he was going to go back to his businesses. I get back to, how did that leak? Somebody, one of the cabinet members, decided to make a phone call to one of their reporter friends or text their reporter friend. And then all of a sudden, it's everywhere. It's on Bloomberg, it's on Politico, it's on Daily Mail. It was everywhere. So if you can't trust your top lieutenants because they just run their mouth and they're on their phones and you give them confidential information and say, you know, Elon's probably going to be phasing out, and you're trusting them, and they run off to the media with it, that's pretty darn bad. I mean, look, the media is they're just a bad bunch, and they can't keep a secret, and they love to chat, and there's some really, really like seedy connection there between politics and the media. And I say that, you know, having been a member of the media as long as I have been, but I still don't really consider myself an insider in that way, only in that, you know, look, I quadruple check everything, right? I would never go with anything based on one source. I have multiple sources. I would never betray a source. I would never betray my boss, for goodness sakes. You're in a cabinet meeting and your boss, the president of the United States, says, you know, Elon's probably going to be winding down. And the first thing you do is you run out and call Politico. Somebody did it. Somebody did it. So Laura is not wrong. She's not wrong. And okay, you know, that the left doesn't like her. The left doesn't like her because maybe she has some influence because Donald Trump is like, okay, this girl actually, she's got it going on. She's out there doing the research on the people that are working for the NSA. She's done all this research on the judges, right? And all the sort of strange connections that say the judge who's now actually taking that Signal Gate case, what his background is, who his daughter works for. It happens to be an NGO that is defending some of these MS-13 gang members. He's, by the way, the judge that wanted to stop the plane midair. Those are important things to know. Hopefully he's got staff that's doing this and he doesn't rely on her entirely. But for whatever reason, you know, he trusts her judgment, apparently, and it may have impacted his decision on whether or not to keep the head of the NSC. But I'm going to go back to basics. Like, why would you have, forgive me, not the head of the NSC, the NSA, national security, and then you've got the, you know, basically it's like NSC, we were talking about this last night, and, you know, a friend of mine and myself, like all these different intel agencies. And I'm like, yeah, the NSA is like the big deal. And then the NSC is sort of like where CIA meets the NSA. But I would want my own people there. Like, I think it's a really logical thing to want. The media's livid. It was like one of the headlines after the tariffs, after the sell-off in the Wall Street Journal last night, and in the New York Times as well. And then you had Peppermint Patty there over, Biden's former pusher there, with his narrative at the White House. Jen Psaki, forgive me, Peppermint Patty, but anyway, you know who I mean. She's just going off on Laura Loomer.
Call it a close personal friendship with Trump over the years, cozying up to him at Mar-a-Lago events, and even traveling with Trump on the campaign trail last year. You can see right there. Even accompanying him to a 9/11 anniversary observance in Lower Manhattan. I mean, that was quite a choice by Trump. It was so outrageous that actually fellow Republicans finally pushed Trump to distance himself from Loomer and boot her off his plane. Let's take a minute to sit with this. The president and a number of his key cabinet members and his chief of staff had to listen to rantings of a 9/11 conspiracy theorist in the Oval Office. Imagine being Howard Lutnick listening to that. Remember, his financial firm, Cantor Fitzgerald, lost 658 people in the World Trade Center in 9/11. including his own brother. So what was Loomer really there for? I mean, according to the New York Times, she walked into the White House with a sheaf of papers attacking the character and loyalty of numerous NSA officials. Now, to be clear, these weren't exactly rogue liberals she was attacking, not people just secretly Democrats in the rough there. I mean, a lot of these people had actually worked for the Trump administration during the first term. But Loomer said they were disloyal to Trump because they were, quote, neocons. Now, sources tell NBC News that Waltz stood up for his employees in the meeting. But remember, he's on pretty thin ice right now in the White House. Mainly, it seems, over the fact that he had Jeffrey Goldberg's contact in his phone, less than over the group chat he initiated that included attack plans and emojis. Who knows? With that aside, in the end, it seems Waltz's National Security Council got Loomered. Now, that is her term, not my term. But after that meeting, as the world economy was melting down from Trump's tariff announcement, the president fired at least 6 officials from the National Security Council, according to the Times. Now, today, Trump said that was totally unrelated.
Okay, so clearly, Peppermint Patty does not like Laura Loomer. I don't think that little innuendo, if you caught that, was really quite nice either. We actually asked Laura to come on today, but she's out giving depositions in LA because she's suing Bill Maher because he made a little bit more of an innuendo about her and Donald Trump, a married man who, by the way, I think is doing just fine, right, with his wife, Melania. Anyway, Laura did not appreciate that. She's actually suing Bill Maher for $150 million. So she couldn't come on the program today to discuss this, but I'm just going to say, like, look, she may not be everybody's cup of tea, but she is out there doing a lot of digging. And whether or not he listened to her, he's sort of saying no. I mean, she's made some comments on it actually on Twitter, and she's like, look, this is what I found. I'm not going to divulge the conversation I had with the president that was off record, but this is what I found on these people. There you have it. So the media is mad. I think it's kind of sort of interesting and telling that Jen Psaki is suddenly taking, everybody else's side of the NSC staffers that got fired, et cetera. It's kind of unusual. I'm just thinking a little bit unusual. Suddenly she's like all for Cantor Fitzgerald's Howard Lutnick. I mean, that's a new one, right? So politics makes for strange bedfellows. I would say Donald Trump has to be extraordinarily cautious about who's around him. And, the place is leaking like a sieve if he makes one comment about Elon and then suddenly it shows up in Politico, which, by the way, don't forget, Politico was a recipient of U.S. aid dollars to the tune of, gosh, what was that? They got $8.4 million for subscriptions at $10,000 a pop. You think anybody needs Politico subscriptions at $10,000 a pop? Nope. But the government was signing up for these things like hotcakes. Oh, election year. What do you know? And Politico was the preferred place of choice. Don't forget, when the 51X spooks wanted to attack and say that laptop was nothing but misinformation, Hunter Biden's laptop, fed to you courtesy of Rudy Giuliani, guess where that wound up? That was right there in Politico. Just saying. Okay, just saying. So I think that Laura's onto something. I think the media can't stand it. I think that you probably need to shore up and make sure that everybody is on the same team, right? Same exact team, so that they're not out shooting their mouths off to the likes of Politico.